Group. I am thrilled to introduce CCCBA's own award-winning entertainment attorney and music supervisor, Natasha S. Chee. Natasha advises filmmakers, movie producers, production companies, content creators, writers, talent, and video game and tech companies on legal and intellectual property rights. She was the business attorney and music supervisor and post-production supervisor for the movie Best Friends, Volumes 1 and 2, starring Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero of the movie The Room. She was also the music supervisor for the soundtrack. Natasha received her degree in biochemistry with a minor in French from UCLA and her law degree from Santa Clara University School of Law. She is past president of the CCBA's Women's Section and is an active member of CCCBA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. She has presented and authored numerous articles on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as on entertainment and technology law. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen so you guys can all watch. And thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope that you'll enjoy this presentation. All right, so let's get started. So that's my bio. You know, I think a lot of you guys know me already, so we'll go to the overview here. So we'll go through these various topics here, laws and regulations. We have the various unions and guilds, the history of Hollywood, offensive practices, destructive tropes, ageism in Hollywood, disability in film, various accolades and firsts, also diversity in animation, and the future of Hollywood. All right, so let's get going here. So under federal law, you know, the United States Constitution, 14th Amendment, states that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So this also applies to the entertainment industry as well. And then over here, oops, we have California laws. So the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 7 and 8, explicitly require that the state government may not deprive individuals of life, liberty, or property without due process of law or deny equal protection of the laws. So it's very similar to the 14th Amendment. And a person may not be disqualified from entering or pursuing a business, profession, vocation, or employment because of their sex, race, creed, color, or national or ethnic origin in Section 8. Also under the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, this act prohibits employment discrimination based on race or color, religion, national origin or ancestry, physical disability, mental disability or medical condition, marital status, sex or sexual orientation, age over 40, and pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. So now under SAG-AFTRA, we have several diversity efforts that SAG-AFTRA puts on. One is the diversity in casting incentive. So this creates a budgetary incentive for modified low budget and low budget theatrical agreements only. And what it does is it allows for a bigger budget to be considered modified low budget or low budget theatrical. And this is accomplished by hiring from protected groups such as women, performers 60 years or older, performers with disabilities, or various people of color. They also have a zero tolerance policy against discrimination. You can file a report for discrimination or harassment with SAG-AFTRA, and SAG-AFTRA will also enforce and negotiate non-discrimination affirmative action provisions in all of the SAG-AFTRA contracts to ensure that the workplace is, you know, free from discrimination and harassment. So these are some great benefits to being a part of SAG-AFTRA. They also have 8 various diversity committees for various things such as Native Americans, women, LGBTQ plus, all sorts of different diversity committees. All right, so here we have some statistics. This graph shows the lead actor race in theatrical films from 2011 to 2019, and this is for the top Hollywood films. As you can see, this gray line here in the center, it is showing the US population of people of color. This is the line. And this is the percentage of actors who are white versus the percentage of actors who are minorities. And as you can see over the years, it's steadily growing and gaining parity, but it is nowhere near the general population percentage. And what is quite shocking is that 3 out of 10 lead actors in film are people of color. So, you know, that's something that we need to start working towards parity. You know, there's still room here to grow, if so to speak. All right. So here we have, let's see here. This is the lead actor by gender in theatrical films. So as you can see, it's getting parity here, 55.9% male and 44.1% female. And that has steadily grown over the years, as you can see here. So that is seeming to get better. Here is the share of all film roles by race in 2019. And as you can see, it's still heavily in the percentage of white is 67.3%, whereas these other races are lagging behind. Definitely Native American and Middle Eastern, North African is really just non-existent, virtually non-existent there. So this is gaining, you know, the minority population is gaining traction, but it is quite at a slow pace. This is the film actor counts by race and gender in 2019. And as you can see, by gender, white is still unequal between male and female by a lot. And it is sort of the same in all these other categories of ethnicities. And Native Americans and Middle Eastern, it's very, very low again. All right, so here's the Producers Guild of America. Their diversity initiatives are, they have diversity committee as well. They have a Power of Diversity Master Workshop. It's an intensive 8-week workshop held annually. This provides mentorship. It helps with pitching, which means that when you have a project, you would pitch to different producers or executives in the studios or distribution companies. So this is really helpful. And then this is the breakdown between male and female in 2015 of the PGA. So it's 57% male and 43% female.
Hey, Natasha, before you move on, I was just wondering if there's any, this actually comes from one of the audience members, but is there any difference in pay between male and female actors, you know, as well as the difference in how they get cast?
Well, in SAG, there are day rates. So it's not per gender. It's basically dependent on what budget the film is. And then there's a corresponding day rate for the actors, whether they're, you know, background actors or leads. But, you know, as the budgets grow and the actors get paid more than the day rate, there's probably a discrepancy because it is what the producer is willing to pay the cast member. So yeah, there are discrepancies as you break away from that standard day rate. It is like any other profession. Then it is, they choose to pay what they want to pay and what to accept as an actor. So I hope that answers whoever's question that was. If not, we can discuss it again at the end. All right. So this is for, oops, sorry. Ooh, sorry about that. Okay, this is the Directors Guild of America. So the director, they have a lot of different things here. The Director Development Initiative, which focuses on education and networking, career development for its members. They publish a diversity report. They also have various diversity committees. There's a television director development program, commercial director diversity program. They have a diversity award, which honors outstanding commitment to and leadership in the hiring of women and ethnic minorities in the DGA categories. They also have a student film award, which brings attention to outstanding minority and women film students. So they have quite a lot of efforts there. All right, and then this is a case in 1983, the DGA versus Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures. And the DGA brought suit against Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures on behalf of women and minority members, and they were claiming that there was employment discrimination. So this, so they will take these steps if they believe that they need to protect their members. All right. Okay, so here are the demographic breakdown of the DGA's membership. The DGA does not hire directors for projects. That would be the producers who do that. Let's see, employers such as studios, networks, and producers hire the directors. Okay, here is the percentage of all DGA members, including the directorial team, by women, which is 24.7%. But over in this right-hand column, you can see the percentage of director members. So it's much less than the percentage of all DGA members that are part of the directorial team. And same for African Americans. That's pretty much in line. And Latinx is a little bit off there. Asian Americans, it's pretty much right on there. And same for Native Americans. All right, so here is the director race from 2011 to 2019. And again, here's our US population. And you can see that the directors are predominantly white. It's 84.9% as of 2019 and 15.1% minority. I think this is relatively shocking to put it. Only 1.5 out of 10 film directors are people of color. And be mindful, this is the top Hollywood films. This doesn't include, you know, the indie film that you watch or the foreign film that's very obscure. This is the top Hollywood films. As you can see, you know, it's gaining a little bit, but it's really not. It's not it's not a exponential curve. Definitely, it's sort of like going up and down, bobbing along. And this is the director gender breakdown. So only 1.5 out of 10 film directors are female. And this is pretty much the same percentage as by race. All right, and then this is showing from 2018 to 2019, and it actually got worse. So the percentage of minority directors for top Hollywood films decreased from 19.3% in 2018 to 15.1% in 2019, which is a 4.2 decrease. You know, definitely not going in the right direction there. Okay, and then this is the Writers Guild of America. So they have various diversity initiatives as well. So they have an inclusion and equity group, and this educates industry professionals and champions hiring practices to create diversity for writers. They have a TV writer access project, feature writer, Hollywood Writers Report that they come out with, inclusion report, and they have 9 diversity and inclusion committees as well. Let's see here. But even with all those efforts, as you can see, here's the writer breakdown by race. And, the amount of minority writers is still at 13.9% versus 86.1% white. And only 1.4 out of 10 film writers are people of color. And here is the breakdown by gender for writers. And it is 17.4% female versus 82.6% male. And that number hasn't really changed much over time. In the last decade or so, it's gotten a little bit higher, but it's not a lot higher. You would think it would be more over a 10-year time period. All right. And here is the share of film writers by race in 2018 versus 2019. There were small gains for minority writers from year to year. But as you can see, Native American and Middle Eastern, North African is a 0. And there's some gains like for Latinx community and very tiny gain for the Black community. And the Asian community actually went down for writers in that year. And here's the film writer counts by race and gender. So as you can see, even though the percentage is high for white writers, it's disproportionate in terms of male versus female writers. So male writers are definitely leading the race in terms of writers versus their white female counterparts. Black is pretty, it's on parity here. Latinx is not. Asian has parity. So there's definitely a disproportionate number of white male writers versus white female writers.
Natasha, another question. Would we also see similar statistics if we looked at below the line jobs like makeup, costuming, and things like that?
I don't actually have the stats for those, so I couldn't speak to that. I believe, for crew, it depends on the crew position. I believe it's just anecdotally, I would think, hair and makeup, it would be more female. There would be more females in that industry, whereas like grips, gaffers, cinematography, that would be more, leaning towards males doing those professions. So I think it's still dependent on the type of crew work that you're doing. Maybe costuming is more, there are more females in costuming. So, it's hard for me to say because I don't have the stats in front of me, and I don't have that, but I'm sure it's still very unequal in the other parts of the crew as well. All right, so this is something new that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced as of September 2020. So it is a new representation and inclusion standard for the Oscars eligibility in the Best Picture category. And it's only for the Best Picture category. These are standards that they created that are designed to encourage equitable representation on and off screen in order to better reflect the diversity of the movie-going audience. As we've seen in the stats, it's not at the same level as the general diversity in the US population. So these standards were adopted or these standards were based on similar ones that were adopted by the British Film Institute and also the BAFTA. So the Academy Aperture 2025 initiative sets up this thing where you have to submit a form disclosing their inclusion efforts as of 2022. And so from 2022 and 2023, you'll have to submit this form for Best Picture consideration and disclose, what you've been doing to make efforts to be more diverse and inclusive. And then by 2024, you actually are required to meet certain inclusion criteria to be eligible for Best Picture. And this qualification is by having certain categories filled. So they've set up these 4 different categories for, on-screen representation, themes and narratives, creative leadership, which is like the producers and the directors and all of that, and the project teams, and then industry access and opportunities for underrepresented groups. That's like internships and those kind of opportunities. And then diversity in marketing, publicity, and distribution teams. So you actually have to hit some of these things in each of these categories, and they give you options on what you can qualify for.
Natasha, we had a question that I think ties into one of those categories. One of the categories was diverse creative leadership and project teams. Is there a sense that there's maybe less diversity among some of the senior members of management than junior members? So for instance, like if you have like senior writers, is there a sense there's maybe less diversity among that group than junior writers, I guess?
Can you say that again? So is there less diversity amongst?
Yeah, or I guess more of a concrete question is, are you aware of any statistics that show that there's greater need for diversity among senior people on these teams, like maybe senior writers or people who are considered more senior?
Yeah, so let me get to my next slide here, and then I'll show you. Okay, so this slide I think will explain a lot and address that question. So Hollywood is leaving literally $10 billion on the table by undervaluing Black films, filmmakers, and executives. And I believe it's not just Black films, filmmakers, and executives, but minority films, filmmakers, and executives. But according to this report by McKinsey and Company, between 2015 and 2019, they looked specifically at Black films, filmmakers, and executives. What they found is that Black talent tends to be shut out of projects unless senior team members are Black. Emerging Black talent receive fewer chances, and they have lower margins of error and little minority representation among top management and executive boards. And here is a graph that explains all this. So as you can see, so this is between 2015 and 2019. These are the likelihoods of a film having a Black director based on one or more producers that are Black. This is the likelihood of a film having a Black writer based on whether one or more producers are Black. And then the likelihood of having a Black writer based on whether one or more directors are Black. And as you can see, if there's one or more Black producers, the percentage likelihood of a film having either a Black director, writer, or a writer when there's a Black director increases dramatically. And when there isn't a Black producer or director, then it's virtually non-existent. So yeah, I believe that, this is sort of illuminating the need for Black people and people of color, BIPOC people in these higher executive positions, because they're the ones who are going to be mindful or maybe recruit or know in their network, talented minorities who can be directors and writers, and they're more mindful and they bring it on their projects, And as you can see, this is the percentage of films that share this pairing, which is very low and very high on this side, with where 92% if there's no Black producers versus 8% if there's just one or more Black producers. I hope that answers your question. I think there is a need for minorities to be in positions of power. It helps bring on newer talent and help those newer talent navigate the industry. All right, so let's see here. This is the Motion Picture Production Code and the Hays Code. So there's a pre-code in 1927 prior to enactment of the Hays Code. There was a long list of don'ts and be carefuls. It wasn't really codified at the time before 1927. So it just was like, it said, don't do this, don't do that, be careful of this. And it included miscegenation and sex perversion and a whole long list. And so what the Hays Code did, it essentially codified the pre-code. And it's a set of industry moral guidelines for self-censorship of content that was applied to, you know, most of the motion picture studios at the time, between 1934 to 1968. And the production code spelled out what was acceptable and what was unacceptable content for motion pictures produced for a public audience during that time period. In 1968, the US abandoned the Hays Code, and that's when they enacted the MPAA, which is the Motion Picture Film Rating System, with G, M, R, and X, which we actually still use today. All right, so this is how we sort of flow into, you know, black, yellow, red, and brown facing. So what is that? That's actually where a white or someone who is not of the same race will put on makeup on their face to make them look darker or to make them look like a different race. And blackface actually found its origin in 1838 in minstrel shows. And the early years of film, Black characters were routinely played by white people in blackface makeup. And here are some examples of that. So this is very damaging in our pop culture, right? Because it promotes these demeaning stereotypes, it confirms these notions of white superiority, and it sort of desensitizes audiences to the horrors of the Black culture, slavery, and it misrepresents the culture that these communities live. So by distorting the features and culture of African Americans, including their looks, language, dance, deportment, and character, white Americans were able to codify whiteness across class and geopolitical lines as its antithesis. I think that's a very important statement there. All right, and then here we have various examples of brown, red, and yellow face. Over here we have Burt Lancaster, who is not Native American, playing a Maasai in Apache. And you can see his skin tone has been darkened significantly with makeup, and he's wearing, you know, the traditional garb of a Maasai. And then we have Rita Moreno as Anita in West Side Story, and she's actually Latinx. However, she's quite fair-skinned, and so the makeup department would put on brown makeup on her to make her look darker and more darker skinned for this role. And then we have Katharine Hepburn as Jade in Dragon Seed, and Katharine Hepburn is not of Asian descent, and so she had to, you know, put makeup on and perhaps angle her eyes a little bit more and dye her hair dark. And then we have, you know, Mickey Rooney as Mr. Yunioshi, which is a very comical character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. However, he had to wear dental implants to make his teeth look like that, and he used a different, you know, Japanese accent, and it was quite offensive, actually. And then Johnny Depp as Tonto, you know, the Lone Ranger. Here we have again Native American character. All right, and then we also have in Bollywood brown facing. So this is an actress in a movie in Bollywood. The actress is Indian, and this is her skin tone naturally. And for the movie Bala, which is 2019, they actually put dark skin makeup on her, and she portrays this character Latika Trivedi, who is actually discriminated against based on her dark skin tone. And as you can see here, this is an actual ad from the movie Bala, and here she is again wearing this darker makeup, and she is actually selling fairness cream, skin lightening cream. So this is, you know, quite ironic that it's a fair skin actress wearing dark skin makeup trying to sell a skin lightening cream for a movie that is about discrimination on your skin tone. So it's very ironic, and there was a lot of uproar about this. All right, so here we have some characters of whitewashing in films. And whitewashing is where the character is perhaps a minority, is from a minority group, and yet they cast a white actor in that role. So here we have Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, which is originally Tibetan and changed to be Celtic in the film for Doctor Strange. We have Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, which is a Middle Eastern, North African character in Batman Begins, and Liam Neeson is not Middle Eastern or North African. We have Scarlett Johansson as Major Mira Killian, also Motoko Kusanagi, who is a Japanese character in Ghost in the Shell. And then we have Rooney Mara, who plays Tiger Lily, which is a Native American character in Pan. And I actually read an article where Rooney Mara apologizes for taking this role, and she acknowledges how destructive that is to take a role for a Native American when she herself is not of that ethnicity group. All right, so here we are to casting cisgender actors in LGBTQ+ roles. Here we have this, very famous, very, well-renowned film, Brokeback Mountain, 2005, and they cast Heath Ledger, who was actually nominated for Best Actor Oscar for his role here, and Jake Gyllenhaal as male characters who develop this gay romance and relationship, and neither actor has admitted that they are gay or part of that community at all. So that was criticized as well. And then also we have this film, Blue is the Warmest Color, 2013 film. It was very highly acclaimed. It was the winner of the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. And it was criticized because the director was a cisgender man, and there was not a lesbian consultant, and the two lead actresses were not lesbians at all. They claimed to be heterosexual. So, and there were a lot of nude sex scenes in there that were very long, and there wasn't even a lesbian consultant. So there was a lot of critique over whether this was an accurate portrayal of a lesbian relationship. All right, and then we have cisgender actor roles for more examples here. So we have The Favorite, which stars Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, and Emma Stone, and they play lesbian, bisexual characters. And none of these actresses have come out as being part of the LGBTQ+ community. And actually, Olivia Colman won Best Actress Oscar for this role. And then we also have The Danish Girl here, 2015, where Eddie Redmayne, who is a straight man, he's playing a real life character, Lily Elbe, who was transgender. And then we have Bohemian Rhapsody, where Rami Malek won an Oscar for Best Actor, portraying the late Queen, singer-songwriter Freddie Mercury, who was very well known as being a gay man and was part of the storyline in that movie as well. And then there's also a very good documentary on Netflix called Disclosure, and it talks about transgender people and characters in film and media and how they're negatively portrayed. You know, they said, like in The Danish Girl, it is a straight man who puts on this costume essentially and becomes a woman. And then people think that being transgender is just putting on a costume, and it's not a lifestyle or a choice that they've made. All right, so these are the destructive tropes that we have here in film. And a trope is a common or overused theme or device in storytelling. So these are some common destructive tropes. For Black characters, you know, they're often portrayed as gangsters, thugs, drug dealers, pimps, maids, thieves, you know, the whole gamut, right? None of it is good. It's all negative. And Latinx, they're often portrayed as maids. I mean, who's ever going to believe that Jennifer Lopez is a maid in a hotel in Manhattan? You know, undocumented immigrants, gangsters, Spanish speaking only, migrant farm workers, Asians are often portrayed as scientists, doctors, nerds, grocery workers, you know, with heavy Asian accents, and they're emasculate if they're male, and they're sex workers if they're females. It's this fetishization of female Asians, you know, and as we know today, there's a lot of violence perpetrated against the Asian community right now. And, you know, what part has media played in that? We have to ask ourselves that. So Native Americans, indigenous community, they are often portrayed as savages or lazy or uncivilized or, you know, on welfare, uneducated, all sort of things, alcoholics. Middle Eastern, North Africans, they are often portrayed as terrorists, immigrants, you know, luxury obsessed, like Persian mafia. You know, Shahs of Sunset is a very good example of that. All Muslim, homophobic. Okay, and then the LGBTQ plus community, they're often portrayed as being promiscuous, effeminate, you know, for males, butch if they're females, you know, they're the gay best friend that every woman has. They're transgender sex workers, and there's so much more to these communities, obviously, than these stereotypical and destructive tropes that are shown in media. All right, so this is ageism in Hollywood. So 30% of US moviegoers are actually 50 years or older, and that's quite a big demographic. You know, they have a lot of time, and they have a lot of discretionary money, so they love going to see movies. So Jamie Lee Curtis, who was in the 2018 film Halloween, she reprised her role after 40 years after the original, and it was the top grossing film with a female lead over the age of 55. And then this was the 2020 Oscars breakdown for men. The Best Actor nominees only included one actor 60 or older, Jonathan Pryce, 72, which is here in The Wife. Best Supporting Actor, it was a little bit better for the men, as you can see. And then the 2020 Oscars for women, there were no nominees age 60 and over for Best Actress, and only one nominee, Kathy Bates, who was 71, for Best Supporting Actress. All right, and then we have destructive tropes for ageism. So the destructive tropes are that, you know, all the elderly people have dementia, they have Alzheimer's, they're reduced capacity, they're physically weak, or they want the last hurrah, like The Bucket List and Edie. They're out of touch, they don't know how to work tech, and that they're often rude, and that they get away with it because of their age, you know. And then here we have The Father, which is nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor. this year's Oscars, and it is about this man who is battling with dementia, and his family is very concerned about him, but clearly Anthony Hopkins does not have dementia because he can remember all his lines for an entire film. And if you guys haven't seen Edie yet, it's a great film. It was about a woman who was recently widowed, and her husband was very boring and wanted to stay at home all the time. And then she's like, I'm gonna go out there and climb this mountain by myself. So that I felt that was actually an empowering film for older character. And then here we have disability in film. These are this year's nominees for Oscars. We have Sound of Metal, which is, as you can see, nominated for several Oscars, including Best Picture. And this is about a character who is a musician, a drummer, and is experiencing hearing loss. So, you know, it's very interesting because you can see the character struggling with that and having to learn sign language and adjust his life accordingly. And Paul Raci is not deaf, he's hearing. However, he grew up with two parents in real life who were part of the deaf community. So he actually grew up speaking ASL. And Riz Ahmed, along with Stephen Yoon from Minari, this is the first time that two actors of Asian descent are nominated for the Best Actor category. And then over here we have Crip Camp. This is nominated for Best Feature Documentary. And I thought this was a wonderful film. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. It starts out with these young people going to a disability camp, a camp for disabled teenagers. And a lot of these same people move to the Bay Area and basically become activists for disability rights. And it shows them, you know, occupying a building for many, many days, going on hunger strikes here in San Francisco. Here we have some accolades. Last year we had Hildur Guðnadóttir for Joker. She's actually the first female to win Best Original Score. She's the first female composer to win this award, which is amazing. And Awkwafina for The Farewell. She is the first Asian female to win a Golden Globe Award for any lead actress category. However, she wasn't nominated for the Academy Award for 2020. And here we have some other firsts. We have Catherine Bigelow. She's the director of The Hurt Locker. She's the first and only female to win Best Director Oscar, which is mind-boggling. That was in 2009. And then we have Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona. She's the first and only Spaniard to win Best Supporting Actress Oscar. And then we also have Halle Berry, who's very famous for winning Best Actress for Monsters Ball. And she is the first and only African-American woman to gain that honor. And then we have Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. He is the first person of Maori descent to win for Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar. All right, and then Parasite. This was the first foreign language film to win Best Picture Oscar. Parasite, you know, was written and directed by Bong Joon-ho. He is the first Asian to win Oscars for Best Original Screenplay and the second Asian to win Best Director. The first one was Ang Lee for Brokeback Mountain. As you can see, the budget for Parasite was 11.4 million, and the box office that it took in was 266 million. So it was a very, very successful film financially. All right, so this is this year's nominees for Best Director. This isn't all of them, but this is the first time that 2 females have ever been nominated for Best Director category. And Chloe Zhao is the writer and the director for Nomadland, and it is nominated for a total of 6 Oscars. And here we can see Frances McDormand, who is also nominated for Best Actress for Nomadland. And that talks about a woman who is widowed and she has lost her job and she's out and sort of like a nomad in America looking for jobs. So we also have Promising Young Woman. This was written and directed by Emerald Fennell. If you guys haven't seen this, you guys should see, I mean, you should see all these films. They're really amazing. So Promising Young Woman stars Carey Mulligan, and she is out for revenge for her friend who was sexually assaulted. So it's a very creative film and very poignant. And here we have Judas and the Black Messiah. This is nominated for Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor for Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, and then Best Original Screenplay and Best Cinematography as well. And this was the Black Panthers movement. And here we have One Night in Miami, and these Oscar nominations, they're Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for Leslie Odom Jr. However, Regina King, the director, was not nominated for Best Director, nor was it nominated for Best Picture, unfortunately. It's an amazing film with characters such as Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke, and it's sort of this fictional night in Miami where they talk about how they can be more active and in the Black rights movement, civil rights movement, and the Black community. All right, and then we have Minari, which was nominated for 6 different Oscars. And as I mentioned earlier, Steven Yeun, he's actually the first Asian of Korean descent to be nominated for Best Actor. And then we have Lee Isaac Chung, who is also nominated for Best Director and Best Original Screenplay. And we have Yoo Jung Yoon, who is nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and she's actually 73, so that's amazing for an actress of her age. Okay, and then we have over here, we have Mulan and Da 5 Bloods. So Da 5 Bloods is a Spike Lee film, and he felt like he was shut out of the Oscars. It was only nominated for Best Original Score, and it is about a group of Black men who served in Vietnam, and they're going back to Vietnam to find this pot of gold. And you know, it has a lot of good qualities because of the different characters going back in time, reliving their time in Vietnam and then in the present time. And then as well as Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is a historical feature film based on Ma Rainey, who's a jazz musician. And this was not nominated for Best Picture, but it has received all these other nominations here, including one for Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis. And Chadwick Boseman's also in Da 5 Bloods. And then we have Mulan, which was nominated for 2 Oscars for Best VFX and Best Costume Design. All right, and then we have Diversity in Animation. We have Soul, which was nominated for Best Animated Feature, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. And it's a very, you know, warming film about a teacher, an African-American teacher in New York City, and he teaches young students, but his dream is always to be this jazz musician. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but he goes on an adventure with another soul. So it's very cute, as all of these Disney Pixar movies are. But it's great to see you know, a diverse character and story theme as well. And then here we have Over the Moon, which has an Asian American family and this really precocious young girl who is going to the moon with her brother and in search of the moon goddess. So that's a very cute film as well, with a Asian American storyline, theme, and characters. All right, so what is the future of Hollywood? You know, as you can see, there's a lot of room to grow and there's a lot of progress to be made. You know, there are different things for screenplays now. They're looking into artificial intelligence to see if that can help. You know, I don't know if it'll help diversity very much, because if an artificial intelligence program is looking at different screenplays and it's trying to find what is the most lucrative screenplay based on history, then it may not advance diversity efforts very much if it's basing it on history. But if it's able to not think about whether the storyline is based on minority characters or weird things that aren't in the mainstream now, then maybe it would help. You know, independent film is a big part of the you know, community in terms of bringing different storylines than the major studios bring. So that is a place that diversity can have a voice and power in independent film. And then the role of the consumer, as you can see, you know, a lot of this is based on whether consumers go to the films and watch it and give it support and love. You know, Crazy Rich Asians, I know when it first came out, there was a lot of support on social media, like, hey guys, we have to support this film and make it a box office smash the first weekend, which is the most important weekend for a theatrical release. And they were able to do that. You know, they were #1 that weekend. So we as the consumers have a lot of power collectively for how things are being made or funded and developed. And the role of production counsel and entertainment attorneys, you know, we have to be mindful of the projects that we take on, perhaps, or you know, suggest people who are people of color in terms of, you know, who's in your Rolodex that you can refer in terms of like sound designing or you know, composing or this talent, you know, whatever it is, like you have to be mindful of your role as well as with everything else. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. I think that's about an hour.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natasha. And while we wait for questions from our attendees, maybe we can start off with, you know, I actually do have a couple of questions. I'll start with one of mine and see what Jeff's, as he's monitoring the chat, then we can just go over those questions that we received via chat. And I think we do have a poll in progress for now. Let's do the poll first. And does everybody see the poll? Natasha, earlier you talked about the Academy of Motion Picture and Arts Sciences new standards. How strictly do you think the movie industry will adhere to the new representation and inclusion standards for Oscars eligibility?
Yeah, you know, I think because it will be a requirement to qualify for Best Picture, I think it will have to be adhered to pretty strictly. You know, if they want to qualify for the Best Picture category, if they know that they're not going to be in the running for Best Picture, perhaps they won't care. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see if it actually is sort of adhered to or not. You know, I think it will only affect those films that are in the running for Best Picture. because this requirement is only for the Best Picture category. It's not for any of the other categories.
I see. Thank you. And I think we can agree that filmmakers need to increase diversity of their cast. And there are many reasons for this, from social education and also to providing role models. How much do you think the industry focuses on the commercial impact of casting diversity?
Oh, can you say that one more time?
Do you think the industry focuses on the commercial impact of casting diversity?
I think the bottom line is very important. You know, at the end of the day, oh, sorry, there's a poll here. Let me fill it out really quick. So
sorry you guys for interrupting. It closed itself. So it did it again. So I don't know. Sorry about that. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. No worries. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, filmmaking is a business at the end of the day. The bottom line is very, very important. And everything is about, minimizing risk, financial risk, right? So if the McKinsey report showed that the entertainment industry is leaving $10 billion on the table by undervaluing, Black films, Black writing, all of that, then you can make the argument that they are losing money by not casting more diverse talent, and or hiring diverse filmmakers in all the different positions. So I think it's just, we as consumers have to show that the films will be commercially viable if you cast diverse actors, if you hire diverse talent, and crew, and make it commercially viable, then you should do it. There's no excuse not to do it at that point.
Absolutely. People want to watch films that reflect the world around them and that they can relate to. Also, when you were talking about some statistics earlier, as far as what we've seen, I think there was a UCLA Hollywood report in 2018 where they looked at over 150 films released, and they found that the median global box office peaked for films with a 21 to 31% non-white cast, and the return on investment peaked for films with a 41 to 50% non-white cast. So at every budget level, the CA found that a movie with a diverse cast, where at least there's 30% of the cast is non-white, outperformed a movie with a non-diverse cast, as measured by what you mentioned, the opening weekend, which is the most important weekend in a theatrical release. So the findings, at least from that report, show that diversity is a commercial issue as well as an ethical one.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
I'm trying to see if we have any questions. Oh, there's a question. Jeff, do you want to go ahead with the question from chat?
Yeah. So the question is, whether the pandemic that we've all...
Jeff, you're muted.
You're on mute, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. So the question was whether the pandemic that we've all been experiencing, whether that had an effect on the number of diverse people in films. There did seem to be more diverse nominees for the Oscars this year, as maybe opposed to past years.
All right. Well, I mean, I obviously with the Oscars new initiative, diversity initiative, the Academy Aperture in 2025, and now these requirements that are going to have to be filled out for Best Picture category, I think it definitely had a positive effect on diversity. I think people too are thinking more about how they can bring diverse characters and storylines into their writing and filmmaking. and thinking outside of the box. Hamilton, for example, can be a very viable example of how you can cast non-white actors in traditionally white character roles. So I think it is it has had a positive effect. I don't know if it's the pandemic specifically, however, all the civil rights movements and obviously the George Floyd incident unfortunately had a very positive effect in waking people up to what's been going on and the systemic racism that's been endured over so many years in the entertainment industry. I mean, you could see from the Hays Code, from black facing and brown facing, yellow facing, red facing, it's continually occurring. Even in Bala, which is a 2019 film, it is systemic, and it's time for a change, and the change I think needs to occur quicker than it has been. And so I'm really proud of the Academy for setting up strict guidelines and actually requiring this to occur in 2024. So I hope that answers your question, but I'd like to hear what your guys' thoughts are. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and give their thoughts on this. Anyone? All right. Do you have other questions, Mika? Jeff?
Well, I do have a question as far as your particular practice and your diversity efforts. How have things changed for you as an Asian American attorney? How have things changed for you in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of how you've been able to navigate through the entertainment industry?
Well, I'm on the projects that I've been on, I'm usually one of the few Asians, and definitely, as a sole production counsel, I'm working with a lot of white males in the industry. A lot of the female people that work in the industry are the talent, the actresses, the hair, makeup, costuming people. They're rarely the lighting, the gaffers and the grips. they're rarely the cinematographers. So it's tough. I did work on a project where there were a lot of females, producer, director, writer. It's interesting dynamic. So I think it's an industry where there is still a very thick glass ceiling that must be broken through. There's a lot of implicit bias too, I think, for many reasons that are in even the legal industry. It's the same things that are going on in the entertainment industry, for sure.
Thank you, Natasha. Does anybody have any we're seeing a comment from Robin Pearson.
Oh, thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you, Natasha. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I honestly learned a lot. I'm really glad. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Keep us informed.
Thank you so much. And I hope all of you guys have realized that, you have a lot of power as a consumer, and what you show, not just yourself, but your family too, your children, your spouse, your friends. It's very important that we start bringing diversity in film into our own lives and beyond. If you watch a great film with a diverse cast, crew, storyline, share it. It's as simple as that, I think. I tried to show a variety of films that you may or may not have watched or known about, and hopefully you guys can start catching some of these films to educate yourself on some of these themes as well. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Natasha and Jeff and CCCBA, Teresa Hurley, and Ann Wolf for putting together this presentation. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that, Natasha?
They can email me or call me. I can put my contact info here in the chat. If you guys like here. And it'll be on the materials that I send out to everybody.
Excellent. Are there any announcements, Teresa, for CCCBA?
The next DEI committee program that's coming up is on May 13th. It's our 3rd annual Racial Reconciliation Forum. And actually tomorrow at noon, we are one of many co-sponsors for an Alameda County Bar event on anti-Asian American Pacific Islander violence. So that's on our calendar. If people have time tomorrow, it's free. So you can register for that, as well as the Racial Reconciliation Forum. And then keep your eyes open. We'll be having information about our first town hall of the year that's coming up on June 17th. That'll be coming up soon. And thank you all for being here. And Natasha, fantastic job. And Jeff and Mika, thank you for the support.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have learned a lot. And be really mindful when you watch and consume content. You know, it's sort of like your diet. You can eat junk food, or you can have a really good, well-balanced meal that's nutritious. So choose wisely, I say.
Yes, and in response to the question in the chat, yes, you will get your materials and MCLE certificate, if not Friday, on Monday. All right.
Thank you so much.
Great. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Did you guys want to talk? So I can't end the meeting? That's fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's up to you, Natasha.
2 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah, or Anne, you can make me host if you want to hop out.
Can I make you?
Thanks, Anne.
No polls at this time.
We'll
Thank
figure
you,
this out one day, Teresa.
I know.
We can be each other. We can be ourselves.
Thank you for doing the hosting.
Okay, it was really great, really interesting, Natasha. Really, really interesting.
Oh, good. I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
bye.
Definitely lots of really awesome material. Like it was great. I learned a lot too.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So everything ran smoothly, right?
Yeah, it
Oh, good.
seemed to be fine, you know.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
Jeff, I think you did a great job kind of integrating those questions in.
Yeah, that was fun.
Uh,
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mika, for asking those really thoughtful questions. I thought that was really good.
yeah. Would it be okay to share? Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop the recording because we don't need all this stuff.